Welcome to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andrew Temte. Today we've got Lorin Thomas-Tavel, Managing Director of Bootcamps at 2U and former Chief Operating Officer of Kaplan Test Prep, joining us. Welcome to the show, Lorin.
Thank you, Andy. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and in full disclosure for our listeners, Lorin and I used to work together at Kaplan. Lorin was in a different division than I was, but we worked together all the time. And I don't hide my feelings at all that my time at Kaplan was just fantastic, and we did all sorts of great work. So thank you for that, Lorin.
I feel the same way. I miss my time at Kaplan. I loved it there. I loved the people there. So I have nothing but fond memories of that experience. It was great, and you were a part of that with me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I do. I gush over it because we were able to wake up every day and know that we were going to help people achieve their goals, one success story at a time, but there were going to be thousands of those success stories in that day. And no matter how bad the day was, with all the administrative stuff that we were dealing with, you had that to rely on. So that was super cool.
That's right. I mean, the mission was strong, and I found myself more and more being drawn to mission-oriented companies, and I know you feel the same way. But beyond that, working with people that you really care about and care about you is magical. That is just magical, and Kaplan had that, so that was really, I have such good memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today we're going to continue our series on the lightning rod question, nobody wants to work anymore. We're going to tap into Lorin's deep experience in the fields of HR, operations, and executive leadership to explore the nuance that lies behind this potentially polarizing black and white assessment of today's market for talent. But as we always do on this show, before we get started, clue our listeners into who Lorin Thomas-Tavel is and your story.
Such a big question. So, I'll start by saying I live in New York with my husband and three fantastic children. I've got two 15-year-old twins and an 18-year-old boy. And I lead with that because I first sort of identify as a working mom. That's really who I am. And certainly my family comes first in everything. I have spent most of my career in consumer service businesses, either in retail or education. And Andy, as you and I know, spent 14 plus years at a fantastic company at Kaplan, and now I'm at 2U, still focused on delivering practical, effective, outcomes-based education. So what I think I love so much about the consumer business is the pace and energy. It's the ability to directly engage with the people who are buying your services and get sort of a daily scorecard in terms of results and feedback, which really energizes me. So I love the work that I'm doing now, and in a similar way, I love the work that I was doing at Kaplan because of that.
Yeah, I love your assessment of working mom first. And I just have to say that you made it look seamless, elegant, easy. And, being the husband of a working mom for many years when our children were little, it is behind the scenes, it is not elegant. It is not easy at all. So, you are to be congratulated and are an exemplar of what that formula looks like. So, if you had to pick one event in your life that was just rocket boosters underneath you, just that moment where things changed, what would that be?
Such a great question. It's hard for me to imagine one event. And I guess the reason why I'm saying that is that the greatest accelerant for me has always been people. It's been people who believed in me and allowed me to stretch beyond what I thought I could even do, and gave me a shot at larger roles, and in some cases, probably bigger roles than I deserved at the time. But it's funny that you made the comment even about being a working mom. The only way I can do what I do is because of all of the people around me that make it easy for me to then bring my best to work. So I wish I could like pinpoint an exact event. I can pinpoint a lot of people. Like I could just think of 4 people in particular that pulled me aside and gave me a shot. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, people, one of the things that we like to do on this show is just really point out that people are a business's most valuable asset, and magic really happens when people are really working well together. So that's a great story. We're going to dive right into the topic at hand. When you hear someone casually toss out the phrase, "nobody wants to work anymore," what goes through your mind? Did everybody just get lazy over the pandemic and abandon their work ethic, as the phrase implies?
I think it's just so simplistic. It's there's so many forces at play, and with that statement, the person who believes that is basically putting the blame on people as lazy, and I just fundamentally disagree. There's nothing about that statement that I own at all. The way I look at it is we have just come through a sort of a life altering experience that lasted a lot longer than anybody expected. We have had 2 years that were very hard to navigate with tremendous uncertainty. And for me personally, it was just emotionally draining. And I think that's true for many people, particularly women with children or people that are, caring for those who are elderly. And most every sector was disrupted. So millions of people left the workforce because they either had to or they wanted to take an early retirement because they felt like their, health was in jeopardy. So that is wildly disruptive. Then you couple that with 400,000 plus jobs per month that have been added for 11 straight months in a row, which was remarkable. I think we're up to, couple of million job openings, which is very difficult for a business like mine and other businesses to sort of navigate with these unemployment numbers so low. It's a little crazy to think that it's just that people have made, like a collective group of people have made a choice to get lazy. I think it's just a combination of events that have come together that have created this unusual moment. So, sort of couple that all together, this unusual experience, people making different life choices because of this collective difficult moment as a country and as a world. And now we're coming out of that, and so many businesses needing more people that it feels like there's just been this mass exodus. But I don't think that's the case. I think it will take us a few years to get back in balance. Because people have to figure out how to create a new world for themselves. And I think of women in particular that have children that they have to care for. So we went from, having caregiving situations that were good for women to then having them not work because of health reasons, and now trying to figure out the hybrid approach of coming back to the office periodically to stay connected, and that's quite a lot to manage, and of course 2 years. I mean, it's just a lot that I think people are trying to juggle.
Yeah. Let's just dive a little bit further into this concept of the Great Resignation. I like to think of it as this musical chairs that were a game of musical chairs that we're playing, or the concept of the Great Reset. Some people are calling it. You talked about childcare. What are some of the other shifting attitudes about our relationship with work generally?
Andy, I love the notion of the Great Reset. I have found for me personally that is how I feel. So I can speak, certainly from personal experience. One of the things that was gratifying about being at home was being with my family every single day, more than I'd ever had the opportunity to do. I got to eat dinner every night with my kids, and that's just not something that, as you're working your way up into the career world, you don't have that opportunity to do because you have other commitments and other obligations. And, I found that so rewarding and so fulfilling, so satisfying that it became super clear to me as to what was important. And I don't want to lose that. I want to, keep that. So I think what we'll see is a continued shift to work anywhere flexibility. The beautiful thing about technology is that it will allow us to continue to evolve how we work and to kind of think through new ways of working. I think we're all, sort of struggling with reasonable workloads and work-life balance, and so, that I think is coming into more clarity for people. And I'd say the other part of this is that I'm hearing more and more that people want to have meaningful work. They want to know that they're making a difference, or they want to know that they're being appreciated at work. So I think a lot of that is, coming together in the workplace to create this great reset, as you said.
Yeah, in my next book, I talk a lot about aligning personal purpose with the purpose of the business and being very thoughtful, top of mind about that, not accidental. Don't just fall into that, but be very purposeful about aligning personal purpose with business purpose. Let's go a little bit deeper into the return to work. You've alluded to that. What advice? I'm going a little bit off script here, but what advice do you have for somebody who's facing a challenge with a boss or an environment where, hey, we're all going to come back into the office, and that's and everybody else is adopting hybrid and remote work environments, striking a balance there instead of, oh, we all got to be back in the office. What do you say to a person that's struggling with that in their current environment?
I think so many people are struggling with this, so you're very wise to point it out. I can speak from personal experience to you. We have a lot of beautiful offices that we wanted people to come back to. And we believe so deeply in collaboration and relationship and community building. And when you think of those words, you think of in person. You think of coming together and sharing a meal with one another and laughing and, water cooler breaks. That's what you have in your head. And yet we've had to try to rethink that online and rethink that in different ways. And so I know that there are a lot of people that are struggling with how much time do I put against going back to the office versus working from home. The other reality is we figured out how to work from home successfully. And so, that's also kind of, well, why should I spend the time commuting and going into an office when I can utilize that time more effectively for me personally? And I'm as productive as I've ever been online and staying at home where it's, I have the opportunity to be with my family. So I do think it's a bit of a struggle. What I would say is if you are personally struggling with should I or shouldn't I and how do I handle it, I think you've got to be authentic to who you are. You have to say, it's hard for me to make this decision and here are the reasons why. And my hope is that most employers will take that into consideration and will not have a one-size-fits-all kind of formula. I don't think that everybody needs to be back in the office 100% of the time. We are looking at a bit of a hybrid workforce, and we'll have places where people can come in and congregate, which I think is really important. And then, just as effective, Zoom meetings, Hangout meetings, team meetings, whatever your, choice is. And those seem to be very effective. So I feel like the new way of working will be hybrid. It will not be one or the other. And we'll just get better and better at it because the technology underpinning all of this will get better and better. And we'll adapt more, which will be great.
Yeah. So we're going to shift gears just a little bit here and tap into your experience in the skilling space, because the market for skills has a lot to do with this great reset and the game of musical chairs that we're all playing right now. Our last series of episodes, our last little mini-series focused on the reskilling revolution. Your current role as Managing Director of Bootcamps for 2U really puts you in an in an interesting position to see the reskilling revolution in action, and degrees versus skill portfolios. I'd like you to just take a few minutes to bring our listeners up to speed on what a boot camp is and what's the persona of your average client.
Well, first, let me say, I love the boot camp business. Our boot camps are designed to bridge the world's largest digital skill gaps through a highly intensive, project based learning. And think of that as for the most in demand labor markets. So we are very focused in the boot camp business on what we do. We reverse engineer a curriculum based on this idea of zero to hero learning promise. So we take someone who has little to no prior experience and through 24 weeks help them gain enough experience to launch a new career, which is fantastic. It is so rewarding to see students come out on the other side of this very rigorous program and get jobs that have meaningfully changed their lives. We talk about our ethos as being skills, not theories, practitioners, not professors, projects, not papers. So think of it as much more hands-on, much more focused on getting real skill so that you can go forward with a portfolio and show that prospective employer what you can do. And that's in a 24-week program, which is pretty extraordinary. Our consumers are 20 to 30s, although about 20% are over 40 years old, so yay. And we've had over 53, I guess, thousand graduates at this point. About 34% are female, which I'm, really excited to see more women in STEM and coming into the workforce. And 31% have no bachelor's degree, which means that we really are able to take someone who maybe didn't have the best experience with higher education for whatever reason, or maybe had to drop out, and give them the skills that they need to, really, start a new career, and in many cases, make more money than they did before, which is very rewarding. The way we go about this is we partner with 50 or so of the best universities to create these programs and to expand their educational portfolio. So it's a unique space. The bootcamp business is a unique space, and then we do it in a unique way in that we partner with universities.
Yeah, I love that. I talk to traditional educators all the time, and I have a lot of fun talking to traditional educators that are still kind of stuck in the past and have this belief system that on the ground, in a dormitory, on campus for 4 years is like the only way to do education. And it's fun to kind of tease apart the future where we have to reskill up to 1 billion people. And even if that's wrong by 50%, that's still a lot of humans that need to be reskilled over the next 10 years. So how are we going to do that? The traditional learn to work models just won't have the throughput. So boot camps appear to be one of those alternative pathways, and I'm really happy that your business model partners with universities to help them see that alternative pathways are necessary, and viable. So I think we've answered the question that I was going to ask, which is how significant a role do you think boot camps will play? I think significant.
I think pretty significant. I mean, just think about every organization has to go through some form of digital transformation over the next 10 to 20 years. And so the investment that is necessary in upskilling and reskilling is, particularly in a tight labor market, is extraordinary. So I feel like we're just at the right moment and at the right time to really take a hold of this and to help millions of people upskill. So I'm particularly excited about being a workforce accelerant, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah. So if we think about boot camps as one of many pathways into the market for labor, right now, boot camps seem to be very focused on tech. Because that's the kind of the model where it's the most applicable. What are some of the extensions of boot camps? Where else can the boot camp concept help disaggregate the degree in an effective way and be that stepping stone, maybe toward a degree, but certainly a pathway into the world of work?
I'll tell you what a number of universities are looking at. They're thinking about ways to incorporate the ethos of a boot camp inside their curriculum. So there we do have a couple of partnerships where boot camps are for credit, or they are trying to take the boot camp sort of way of working and educational processes and put it inside of gen ed, which I think is pretty exciting. So there are a number of ways that you can think about taking the capabilities of a boot camp. So we know how to, reverse engineer a job description and really create a curriculum that helps you learn the skills in 24 weeks. We know how to put the right level of service underneath you so that we get you through the process, whether it's tutoring or 24/7 support or small group sessions or homework hackathons. I mean, we do all sorts of things to help someone get through the process. So what other types of skills are there that need that kind of intensity to learn? And I think, we've looked at healthcare. We've looked at a lot of different sort of industries to say, can we take that same ethos and apply it there? And would it be successful? And in some cases, we've said yes, and we'll give it a shot and maybe do a pilot or two. And then in other cases, as we dial it in, we think, you know what? No, this is really where a degree matters. And the boot camp would not be as effective because the employers on the other side would not see it as valuable, as an example. So I do think what we're thinking a lot about is how do you take the capabilities and apply it in different ways, whether it's undergrad, graduate, or the other place that we're seeing quite a lot of interesting pickup is train to hire. So you can imagine in a world where you've got organizations who are trying to bring in new talent, but the talent may not be at the skill set that they need. How could we help that train to hire sort of right when someone is coming into an organization, upskilling them enough that they are effective on job faster? So I think there are a lot of ways that we can help in the boot camp world to close the gap between, those who have skill and don't have enough skill for any number of jobs. So I'm, particularly excited about a lot of the work we're doing in this area.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more about what you're able to do in terms of showing the way to traditional academic institutions for alternative pathways. And, boot camps will be one. We need many more work to learn avenues versus, I take myself out of the job market for 3 or 4 or 5 years and I acquire a degree and then I hop back in. And by the time I hop back in, my skills are obsolete, or at least a portion of them are. So we've got to get to this place of much more continuous improvement and continuous learning. And I'm excited about what the boot camp can do. So let's shift gears back to the relationship with work. I think this is a good point to do that. What advice do you have for an individual who, let's imagine somebody sitting right in front of you, who's rethinking their relationship with work and are considering a career change? What advice do you have?
At my core, I am a strengths-oriented person, meaning I like to play towards someone's strengths in a way that has them sort of align their personal passions and values and strengths with the job. And I think that's the best avenue to go. You try to find a career that fills you up every single day. The work fills you up every day. You love it so much that you can't, that you don't want to stop. As a matter of fact, I had this experience this weekend where I had the opportunity to go to the Berkshire Hathaway investment conference, and here's Warren Buffett, 91, and Charlie Munger, were 98 years old. And they sat on the dais for 6 hours talking about what they love, which is investing. And I was like just struck by, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like this is what I'm put on the earth to do. And this is, so fulfilling. And that was just, so clear to me this weekend watching them, as I was like, look at this. This is 90s. They're in their 90s and they're adding so much value. How awesome is that? So, I don't think there's a better time to learn something new. The opportunities are endless. I can put a shameless plug in for edX. I mean, anyone who has gone to edX knows that, it is just filled with spectacular learning programs, from free to degrees that, if you need a certificate, we've got that. If you want a boot camp, we've got that. If you want a micro degree, we've got that. And so I think there's, no time like the present to sort of figure out what your strengths are, what fills you up every single day, what you love to do, and then, try to path yourself into, that opportunity through some learning that gives you a sense for, well, am I going to like this? And then you can go deep into it with the degree. So I think I'm pretty optimistic about the resources that are out there, and feel like there's a lot of opportunity to learn for anyone who has interest in exploring new opportunities.
That's fantastic. And I think you've exposed folks to maybe something they hadn't thought of before, which is this concept of a boot camp and shorter form courseware. Let's finish on the flip side. So let's imagine that you're sitting in a room and you've got somebody that's formed this opinion that nobody wants to work anymore. You've got this leader in front of you who's becoming frustrated with the tectonic shifts in the market for talent that we're experiencing right now, and has this defeatist attitude. What advice do you have for them? How do you try to move the needle there?
Yeah, I say first and foremost, keep your keepers, meaning be clear on your team talent and who you absolutely want to stay employed with you, because, everyone has opportunities now. So take the time to rehire, to recommit, to check in with people, to let them know how much they matter to you, and, make sure that you are aligning with what some of their needs are. I would say find time to bring people together in a community way, meaning allow people to build relationships with one another. Don't take a negative view of that, take a positive view of that, and say, how can I bring people together so that together people, help one another? And maybe lastly, I'd say there's a tremendous amount of outstanding talent out there. And, sometimes change is good. Movement's positive. So you'll bring in new skills, new ideas, new talents to the team that can be very reinvigorating. So I know it's disappointing and sometimes frustrating to have people, leave or turnover, or, wonder if someone's putting in their all. But I do think there's just as much positive as there is negative, because there's a world of great people out there. The order of business is just find them and bring them in and figure out how to really leverage their skills and abilities.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we are at time. Lorin, thank you so much. This has been an invigorating conversation for me, and I hope it's been so for our listeners. My name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. Please press the like button, the subscribe button. Please rate us 5 stars if you like the show. And Lorin, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Take care, everybody.